I can hear that playing. What's everybody doing? Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy Super Bowl Sunday. If anybody's watching, we're glad you're watching. We were going to do the show anyways because you can Super Bowl it up and you can take a break and watch us for an hour and then go back to Super Bowling it up, eating your snacks, drinking your beer nuts, your peanuts, whatever. And hey, Adam, how's it going? Echo, he said echo. So thanks for joining us, whoever's here. I see several people are here. Participate in the comments if you want to. We're going to talk about the St. Valentine's Day murder or the St. Valentine's Day massacre that took place and several other murders that took place around this time of the year on February 12th, 13th, and 14th. A lot of them are dubbed Valentine's Day murders. So we're going to talk about that today. And do you want to go ahead and go first, just in case?
I can.
Okay, you go ahead and go first. That way it'll alleviate that for you.
Okay.
In case you
So today I'm going to be talking about local murder of two young girls in Delphi, Indiana. On February 13th, 2017, Abigail Williams, age 13, and Libby German, age 14, were dropped off to a trail in Delphi, Indiana that led to Monon High Bridge that crosses Deer Creek, about 60 feet below. The abandoned train track that hasn't been in service since the 1920s. It's a very small town with a population of just under 3,000 people. It is commonplace for locals to take walks on those trails in that area. Libby was taking photos of Abby when they crossed the bridge at 2:07 p.m. on February 13th. As they walked across the trail, headed back to the area that they were supposed to be picked up by family who would give them a ride home. Their family members would arrive at 3:15 to pick them up and find that the girls were not there where they were supposed to be. They searched for them in vain and finally called the authorities at about 5:30 on February 13th to assist them in locating the two missing girls. The police would locate the girls the following day on February 14th, 2017, a half mile east of the bridge around 12 noon. On February 15th, the Indiana State Police released a photo of a man on the bridge that had been taken with Libby's phone, and it was the same bridge that the girls had been on and posted pictures from prior to on Snapchat.
I got a photo. I'm going to pull it up.
Yeah, go ahead and pull that photo up
Yeah.
so they can see what we're talking about.
And I saw the guy's photo. I've watched different cold case file shows and stuff about this case that you're talking about, and I've followed it and stuff and watched YouTube, like documentaries about it. And it was so sad. I was so sad when I watched that. Yeah. I think I cried when I found out about them two little girls. They're so pretty and they're so young, and it's just freaking sad. They just went for a little walk, being teenagers.
So that's
not even teenagers. Sorry.
That's Abby that's actually walking on the bridge. Mm-hmm. And then that's Libby down on the bottom in the center section where the two girls are in the center section. That's Libby. She's the one who took the photo. The man on the left, that man, it was actually found on her phone on a recording, which I tried to find and download the recording for you, which we'll get to in here. But he does say guys down the hill. So he's directing them down the hill. So when you're on that trail, you actually cross, because I've been on it. I mean, this place is like 45 minutes from where I live.
Is this supposed to be him right here in this photo behind her?
It is. So Libby was taking Snapchat photos of the girls' hike. And of course, we all know that social media is huge with kids and teenagers. So as the girls are on the walk and on the hike, she's posting this to her Snapchat story. So little did she know at that point that she was capturing not just her friend walking on there, but she was capturing their murderer, basically. Yeah, super, super incredibly, incredibly sad.
Dumb of
Um,
him too. He was dumb.
yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's crazy, 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 crazy.
Hmm.
Let me look back and see where I was at. Um, let's see. On February 15th, the Indiana State Police released a photo of the man on the bridge that had been taken by Libby's phone. Um, there's also a close up. Yeah. So the thing on the right was the original sketch that came out the day after the girls' bodies were located.
Hmm.
The photo on the left is actually him that was taken with her cell phone. The police have been super, super guarded about what they say and release in reference to what was found at the crime scene or everything that was found on her phone. Um, but they've only released that one small clip of him telling them guys down the hill, and then this photo, and then there's like a 5-second clip of him walking on the bridge toward the girls. Now I didn't send you
Hmm.
that clip, but they're just guarded about what they're releasing, and I get that the police can't release everything because they got to keep some of that stuff
Yeah,
private.
and it might give away what they know. So if they had a suspect in mind and they're going to interrogate them, they want them to tell on themselves. So if
Correct.
they give information they haven't released and they say it willingly, then that means they're guilty because they didn't release that information, so they told on themselves, kind of.
Right. Right. So the police would also release the audio of a male voice saying, "Guys down the hill." It can only be assumed that it was the killer telling them to leave the train tracks and go down the hill. So when you come off those train tracks, it's like a big ravine, and when you walk through
Yeah.
down through the ravine, it's woods, but then that leads to a creek, and that's Deer Creek that runs under there. And they were found, I'm pretty sure, real close to the water. They didn't disclose exactly where they were found, but I'm 99% sure that's where they were found.
Did it say how they were killed? Like what method was
Um,
used?
See, that's just it. They're so guarded. All that they have released was that the girls were brutally murdered.
Hmm.
They didn't list cause of death on autopsy. And they also noted that the girls, what did they say? They said that the crime scene was odd in nature. And that's all they said.
Hmm.
That's it.
Hmm.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So very, very, very little information was ever released in reference to how the girls died, what was found at the crime scene, what type of suspects. I mean, there were a few suspects. Let's see.
Like people they found
One,
that look like this guy?
do what?
Like people that they found that look like this guy or other
Two of
people of
them.
interest?
Two of them. Two
Yeah.
of them look like him. Let me see. There
I
was
just
a
want to keep
V.
him on there.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's one of him. I think there's a photo of him with the sketch that I sent you.
Yes.
Let's see. So there was a vehicle that was seen by the trail. But again, they didn't disclose who owned the vehicle or the type of vehicle, just that there was a vehicle that was by the entrance of that trail for 5 hours between noon and 5 that day. Um, and I mean, we all know that when you run a VIN number, you know who owns the vehicle,
Yeah.
but they didn't disclose that.
Or a plate
So
number or either one of those you're going to find information that's going to lead you to.
exactly. Exactly. Um,
I will say the sketch looks like Joe Cool. Anybody you pass in the street though, his face looks like a million people you could pass and think, oh, that looks like him.
Yeah.
yeah.
And the
I
nose is
also
kind of.
did you get the other one? There's one. Let me see.
Was it this one?
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when the girls first died, day 2, that first sketch that we just saw was sent out. Okay. So then 2 years later, out comes this sketch, which that looks nothing like the first sketch, in my
No,
opinion. Now,
not even
some
the same
people,
age.
no, and some people are like, "Oh, it kind of looks like the same, but a younger version." I don't see it, but I,
I'm
you
not
know,
saying.
I'm weird. So I'm missing something, but he looks completely different in this. And but on the video and on that picture that you saw him standing on the train tracks, his face is so blurred,
Yeah.
you can't really tell what he looks like. So I'm pretty sure that when they were doing the sketches, it was based on eyewitnesses who were also on the trails, because there's a bunch of trails out there. It's just not the trail that leads to that bridge that's been out of commission since the early 1920s. I think it was something like 1929 was the last time any train used that track anyhow.
Yeah.
So, and out there, so when you go out there, you can go on, like I said, several different trails. It's a very rural area. Um, but they have some video cameras out there. So like when you enter that section to go on the trails that leads to that bridge where the girls were at, there is video, but it's not, it's just when you enter. So if you enter like from another trail or just through the woods and you don't go through the main entrance and park there where you can park to
Yeah.
hit all the trails, they don't catch you on that camera. So
And it's like a private, or is it the state or a city?
it's state. Yeah, it's DNR. Now I will okay, so the trails are DNR owned. However, when you leave off of some of the trails, it is a residential area. So people own that land. People own houses out there.
I was gonna say, I wonder if nobody had a game camera out there going.
Well, they do have game cameras out there, but they weren't basically where the girls were at. Now,
Yeah.
since the girl's death, they have installed more cameras out there. But the thing is that so when the girls' bodies were discovered, it wasn't on DNR land. Okay. So the guy owned the land where the girls' bodies was found. He
Someone
was
privately owned it.
correct. So they did investigate him. And he actually was arrested, but it had nothing to do with the girls.
Uh-huh.
They said that he was no longer a suspect, but he did do jail time over something, and I don't remember what it was. But there was three other suspects that they had mentioned during the active investigation phase, which technically they're saying that it's not a cold case,
Did
but
any names start with a G?
let me
Gary?
see. No, Daniel. Okay, so Daniel Nations was the landowner, and he, like I said, he's no longer a subject or a suspect. Paul Etter, he committed suicide when the police came knocking at his door. They were going there to serve an arrest warrant for kidnapping of a child, and he committed suicide.
Who did it?
Charles Eldridge, who looked almost exactly like the first sketch, not the second one. He was a person of interest, but they just all of a sudden decided that they weren't looking at him neither.
Well, he committed
Thomas,
suicide though, right?
yeah, no, this was another one.
Okay.
Thomas Spruce attacked three women and murdered one, and he also resembled the first sketch, and he's no longer a suspect, and they didn't say why.
But he's in jail for the other lady, right? That he
Well,
murdered?
yeah.
Okay.
But then, so like a month, maybe 2 months ago, they arrested a guy from Miami County, which is Peru, Indiana. So he had created a Instagram account with a teen model's picture. When did it happen? February 13th, 2017. If you look up Delphi murders, there are hundreds of articles and interviews, and that town, I mean, it has population of like 2,800. That town is still trying to, hey Eileen, that town is still trying to solve this murder. When you roll through town, it's a tiny, tiny town. And every storefront downtown still has these little girls' posters.
Hmm.
Wow.
The building that was the command center for the FBI and the state police and then the local police,
Mhm.
it's just it's painted with posters of the girls and the numbers to
Mhm.
call, and just it's sad. It's sad because the town feels like they have to solve this before they can remove any of that. Um, but my team and I have been out there to that trail. We have been close to that bridge.
I was going
When
to
we
ask.
were out there, the bridge section was blocked off.
Hmm.
Um, but it's pretty, I don't want to say deep into the woods, but it's kind of a walk.
And this
Um,
is where it had where you saw the photos, or where they found the bodies.
so where we saw the photos, like I said, they didn't disclose the exact coordinates of where they found the bodies. All they would say was east of the bridge, in the woods on that guy's property. But that guy owned several acres of land. So I don't know. Like I said, I think that it's close to the Deer Creek, but they never disclosed that. But again, like I said, they wouldn't tell any details about
It would help the
the
case more
crime
to
scene.
do give the location out. I would think after this many, after it not being solved.
You would think so, but here's the thing. It was so cordoned off when the girls were missing, and then when they found the bodies the next day, on Valentine's Day, that you couldn't get near any of those trails. You couldn't get near any businesses, entities, or parking lots within a 5-mile radius because it was
Hmm.
all cordoned off. Which I get that they want to, make sure that the crime scene isn't overly bombarded with people that don't need to be there. But at the end of the
I
day,
messed up.
I mean, 2017 and they still haven't technically arrested anybody. But circling back, so the guy
So
in
it's 5 years
Peru,
ago today, or tomorrow.
exactly.
Today and tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Hmm.
5 years ago today, they were actually killed.
Hmm.
5 years ago tomorrow is when they discovered their bodies at
What are you
noon.
saying about the Peru guy?
So 2 months ago, they disclosed that this guy created this fake Instagram account. He used a teen model's picture, right? So he would use this Instagram to talk to young teenage girls, and he would get their Snapchat and he would chat with them and get naked pictures and things like that from these children, right? This is a grown man. He's 26 years old, I
Hmm.
believe. But so they arrested him, and he still sits in Miami County Jail, which is 15 minutes from me right now.
Hmm.
But so, but they haven't said all that they would say. Again, they haven't charged him with this crime. All that they said right now is he's been charged with child pornography, and all those sick things. But they haven't said how he relates to the Delphi murders. Only that he could offer insight into the Delphi murders. So does that mean that somebody else had access to his this account? Somebody was in the account with him? I don't know. They won't. They're
That
very
was
tight-lipped.
what I think when you say that. Offering insight, he was an accomplice to, or aided and abetted whoever did it.
Well, and see, I will be
Yeah.
honest with you. My personal feeling is that there were two of them.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Because those girls, while yes, they were young and,
One of them could have ran probably fast to get help if one of them's getting
and because they
killed.
knew at some point they knew that this guy shouldn't have been there. And
Yeah.
they knew to grab the phone and start recording because she got
Hmm.
him talking. Now, my mindset is she probably stuck that phone in her pocket
Hmm.
and it kept recording. So that's probably they probably know a whole lot more than they're saying.
Hmm.
Which again, I get that as a police officer, detective, whatever, you can't release everything you know, but 5 years after the fact, you would think that they would at least release something else. I mean, they do revisit it and they do talk about it annually.
They
And
would if the parents had a lot of money and the parents were making us think about it and making them look terrible.
listen, at one point there was a $500,000 reward.
Oh, was there?
Yes.
Oh,
Wow.
Yes. So the grandparents of Libby um, got a big donation, and I don't remember how, but they got a big donation of money and was offering for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of whoever killed their granddaughter, because they raised their granddaughter
Yeah.
and her best friend. These girls grew up together. I mean, this is such a small town that it's nothing for you to let your child go to these walking trails, hit the
Mm-hmm.
trails, pick them up 3 hours later, and it's a normal day.
Yeah.
yeah.
Or
But
happened often until that day. Probably not anymore. Hey, Irene.
it absolutely happened all the time, because I mean, you live in a rural area like that. Who thinks that something bad like that's going to happen? But I mean, yeah, it
Hey,
really
Mike.
hit the community hard. Hi, Irene. Hi, Beth.
It
I didn't see
sort of
Beth.
reminds me of the 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 is it Slender Man murder? The Slender Man attempted murder. It didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't die. She got away, but it reminded me of that a lot. Those two girls that had just went walking
Yeah,
pretty far from their house. They were pretty far away,
yeah,
like 4 or 5 miles away from the house.
yeah.
So, yeah. I did put that up though. If anyone wants to go back and look at, and if you have any information or you know anybody that has information, I put the phone number up there that she provided for me.
Yep. If anybody knows anything, hears anything, feels anything, sees anything, let them know, because these parents and grandparents need closure. Closure. I mean,
Hmm.
they're lost.
Yeah, and it's really sad.
Um,
Sad.
so,
Yeah,
Just seems to
it
not
is.
have any information at all. I just, even
Yep.
if the person did kill themselves, at least their parents would have closure that they
yeah.
found the person that did it. Even if the person
Right.
was dead because they died from old age, still some closure there.
Well, and that's another thing about the police. They did say that the suspect either lived in Delphi or knew the area well. But
Yeah,
they didn't say what they meant by that. So, okay,
Um,
I mean, I get that there's walking trails, but listen, I mean, I'm from Indiana, and you go to any, you know, park or any reservoir, any river, any creek, anywhere where there's trails, it's commonplace to be on those trails. So to me, I wouldn't say that that means that you're from Delphi. I mean, I could go we hit, my team hit those trails and we walked those trails.
yeah,
And we're
yeah.
not from there. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I think that there's a whole lot that they know that they're not releasing.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
Makes you wonder why.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
I'm gonna go
What?
ahead and pull up my photos and stuff. You can go ahead and talk, Jackie. I'm not gonna be talking. I'm just gonna pull up the screen share thing.
You want me to go next?
I was gonna go ahead and get the Saint Valentine's Day, which is the topic that I named this, and go ahead and go over that because obviously I called this the Saint Valentine's Day murder.
Really? You want me to go next?
yes, really. Get it together, Jackie. Come on.
I don't know which ones you did. Uh,
Oh, she went over like a personal case, like the two little girls, but this is the St. Valentine's Day murder I'm pulling up right now.
oh, the one with the game.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I was where the first one I did. I hope you didn't do it.
I was doing
Was
this one. I've got this stuff pulled up.
the one with wait a minute. I was hoping you would go first, not me.
Yeah, I was. That's what I was telling you. I was like, I'm pulling this up right now. I want to do it just because if I don't get to, then I named it that for no reason.
That was neat. I did look at that museum link.
Yeah, and this is made from real bricks that I'm showing you guys right now. This brick wall is made from the real bricks that actually were shot during the actual massacre. They were relocated because the original building was demolished and torn down. And a guy that was a business entrepreneur said he had taken these bricks and he sold some of them to people online that were like historical buffs or like murder, like cold case enthusiasts or whatnot.
Mhm.
And then the rest of the bricks are used here. Those are real bullet holes right here you see with the red. The red was added for dramatic effect. And you can go here. It's in like the Mobster Museum or the Mob Museum. You can see right here. The
Mhm.
Mob Museum. Right here, if you want to ever go there, if you're in the area and check it out. Um, I don't know if it's in Chicago. If I'm going to guess the museum's in Chicago because this is where the murder happened. So now I'm trying to get back to the photo. There's no forward button. Okay, yes. Anyway, so on February 14th, in 1929 is when the St. Valentine's Day massacre took place. It was at 2122 North Clark Street, and it was at a garage where a bootlegging alcohol, like illegal business, took place that was ran by Bugs Moran. Well,
Mhm.
I don't know if a lot of people know a lot about Bugs Moran or Al Capone, that they were against each other. One of them was the South Side Gang was represented by Al Capone, and the North Side Gang, um, Life or World, was represented by Al Capone. There were 7 men that were part of Bugs Moran's gang that were murdered that
Mhm.
day. Well, 5 of them were gang members, and 2 of them were associates, like a dentist and a mechanic or something like that. George Patey right here is who the person that bought these bricks and put them back together for display. It says 300 of them are on display. So there's a lot of photos you can find or whatnot, but here's one about the massacre. Massacre, 7 of Moran gang killed. Victims are lined against the wall. So um, Bugs Moran was not there at the moment when it happened. He was actually on his way there to the garage where this took place. And he saw 2 men in police uniforms and 2 other men in suits and ties entering the building. He did not go inside because he thought that they were getting busted.
Mhm.
And he didn't want to get arrested by the police officers that were entering the building. So the police officers and the 2 other men enter the building. They tell the 7 men that are in there to put their weapons down and put their hands up and get against the wall. As soon as they do that, then they are shot by a Tommy gun and a shotgun. 70 something rounds were fired on these men, 7 men, and they were all killed immediately except one. He was taken to the hospital, and 3 hours later, after being questioned, he would not give up what happened. He just commented when they asked who shot you guys or who did this, he said, I wasn't shot.
Hmm.
That's what he said. I wasn't shot, but he had 14 bullet holes in him, so obviously he was shot.
Wow, yeah.
So I can't remember what his last name was, like Musset or Busset or Musket. I don't know if it says on there or not. I don't see. Anyhow, so what happened? Um, Bugs Moran's sitting outside watching the police officers and the 2 other men go inside. He hears the gunshots, and then he sees the 2 police officers with their guns on the 2 men in the suits, taking these men out of the building, arresting them. And there were police
Hmm.
cars that had been circling the block. Before that, when Bugs Moran was on his way to park to go in the building, he had seen police officers circling around in that neighborhood. So they weren't real police officers; they were fake police officers that had went in the building impersonating officers to get the other men to put their weapons down and surrender, so that they could murder them. And then they were impersonating officers coming out to look like they were arresting 2 men in suits for what just happened, so that they could get away. And no one was ever arrested for this. No one was ever um,
Charged.
yeah, no one was charged. No one was imprisoned for this. Um, they got away with it because Al Capone's alibi was that he was with I don't know, his girlfriend in Florida, at his home in Florida. and that he had an alibi. So I can't remember what they called her, but her name was Alibi Susie or something like that. Alibi, whatever her name is. So Bugs Moran, after that, lost his business because so many of his men died. Al Capone went through the ringer after that because after everyone heard about this happening and tied him to these murders, he went through the ringer. They got him for everything. Anyone that could find anything went after him, and he was arrested 2 or 3 times after this happened. Once for tax evasion, but he was already in jail at the time that he was being charged with the tax evasion. So he ended up going to Alcatraz. He did serve his sentence. He got out of Alcatraz and died a lonely old miser in his home.
Wow.
So, but I thought it was really neat. Like I just that nobody still to this day has been found guilty, or nobody has been convicted of all the deaths because seven
It's still
people had
unsolved.
families. Yeah,
It's
those
still
seven.
unsolved.
Yeah, those 7 men had to have families.
Yeah.
Those 7 men had to be known throughout the community. The 7 men had to have people it affected, but nobody was charged. So, and because they were rivals, it was said that the reason that they were killed is because Al Capone was retaliating against a drive-by shooting that Bugs Moran had done a month before that, I think, in his neighborhood.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
had done a drive-by shooting. To my knowledge, no one was killed. Obviously, Al Capone was not killed. But he was retaliating against that, and he was trying to come in and he wanted to steal the bootleg alcohol and shut down Bugs Moran because that was his competition in the bootleg world of business that he ran.
Interesting.
All right. I mean, it's your turn, Jackie.
All right. Okay. It's my turn then. Okay. So I did one on a wife killing her husband, Richard Shylock, and the wife's name's Stacy. And um on February 14th, he was cooking Valentine's dinner for her mom and dad and her, and she suggested, because he had gifts, that they had gifts and cards that they wanted to exchange, so she suggested that they go meet at this remote park from where they live at night. So she couldn't go at the same time he went because she had phone calls saying that somebody was going to be late and she had to go do something, and she was going to meet him there. So that was strange to meet him in a dark park, you know. So when he got there, he didn't meet her. He met the hitman, and the hitman killed him, shot him 3 times. I
Was
think
it the hitman called Mr. Results? Is that the one you're
that's
talking
right.
about?
Yep.
Mr. Results, the hitman
Yes.
named Mr. Results.
Yep. And he was a personal trainer and an ex-semi boxer. And he used to do training at Stacy's job, going in and like train people where she worked at.
Oh, that's how she met
Um,
him.
yep, that's how she met him. Well, there was other ways she met him too. After he was shot, the police came out because she came up after he was shot and she called 911. And then she kept saying that she was having an affair with this guy named Ron, and because he had a lot of kids and he owed a lot of money and stuff like that, and she was telling him that. So the first suspect was Juan, because they thought maybe it was a jealous thing going on and he went and killed him, the husband. But come to find out, he was with his ex-wife. He was going to Blackbuster and she was cooking, and they came back and watched the movie and went to bed at a certain time, so he was cleared. Um, the next they found tire tracks. There was 3 sets of tire tracks. One was the husband, one was um One was the husband's, one was probably the killer's, and one was Stacy's. So they knew somebody had a certain tire. So the next day they were thinking about, what they were going to do. But somebody from Stacy's work called, and what he does is clear out the emails. And he noticed it was kind of strange that the emails was already cleared. So he said, I have backups if you want it. And when they looked through it, there was another assistant that worked there with Stacy, a woman. I forgot her name. I forgot her name.
That's all right. It's a female that worked there.
But um, it was an email. I mean, they go through like 400 sets of emails and everything, and two came across was a transfer to a bank to this other person, this lady that worked with Stacy at the medical center, and so um, the first money transfer was like $8,902, and they came across the second transfer for $1,100. And then they decided to go drive around, and when they were driving, they saw a certain tire in a store. So they figured out what kind of tire was in on the car. All right. By that time, a cousin of Stacy's called up and said that grandma's car is gone. That Stacy had it, and then Stacy didn't have it, and then she said Stacy sold it for like $14,000, which they never saw the money, and the money was supposed to go to the grandparents
Yeah.
to pay for their bills.
Yeah.
So
And it was their car.
it was their car, yeah.
Yeah.
So what they tried to do next was do like a phone tracing to see if Stacy called anybody or anybody called her. Well, they got a match that um Reginald, which is Mr.
Results.
Results, called her phone at 8:40 on Valentine's Day,
Hmm.
and then and and that name came up on her contact list. Then the girl from her office texted her and said, I'm going to be late for work tomorrow. And by the way, happy Valentine's Day, which meant that the job was done, that the husband was shot. Um, they went and arrested all three of them. And Stacy was the first one to talk. And she said that she didn't want him shot three times. And Reginald messed up the whole thing. He was supposed to rob her husband, and he was only supposed to get shot one time in the head. The car went to Reginald, and the lady who worked with her at the medical um, clinic where she worked at got her house that she was living in for killing the husband.
Hmm.
And so another reason why he wanted him killed is because the son told her that Richard was sexually abusing him. And she said,
Yeah.
nobody abuses my kids or does anything like that with my kids. I want them dead. Well, come to find out, the little boy lied. He said he's sorry to say all that and cause all this trouble. I think he lied. That's what she said he said. And so she testified against the nurse, and and Reginald went to jail. I forgot how many years he went to jail for.
The nurse
And
was the other female accomplice. It was the one that called her
yes,
during when the murder was done.
yes.
Okay.
After the murder was done, she called her and said Happy Valentine's Day, which meant that she killed that her boyfriend. It was her boyfriend that she got because she was telling the nurse about how Richard was molesting her son.
Hmm.
Because the son was saying, you don't know what's happening when you're not home, Mom. You just don't know what's happening when you're not home. So she was telling the nurse this, and the nurse said, well, I know somebody that could help you with the problem if you want something done with it.
Mhm.
And so those two met up, and Stacy asked Reginald how much would it cost me to do it, and he said, "Oh, about 10,000. So if you add up the $8,902 and
And
1,100,
11.
that's the 10,000 right there."
Mhm.
You know, so that all three was convicted of murdering Richard.
Yeah. Why didn't she just turn him in? That's what I
She
would have
said
done.
she said that she was afraid to give him a divorce, and she was scared that he would take her kids because he had custody of two kids because she had three kids, and plus this was a fifth marriage.
I'm
That's what
gonna
got me
assume he
more.
was a control nut, and that's why she
No,
did that.
not
Because
really. I mean, he loved the kids. He loved her. It was all about the son saying that he was
yeah,
doing something to him that got her
mhm.
to where she wanted to kill him. That's what it was all about.
Yeah, that stinks.
That's what it was all
I
about.
don't think it's
Yeah,
cursed because I'm sure if you look up every day of the year, there are lots of deaths all year round, every day of the year. We just happen to be talking
yes,
about Valentine's Day, and I would say that I'm going to assume that a lot of the deaths that are around Valentine's Day are love or anti-love related.
yes.
Crime of passion, like
Yes,
couples involved. Yeah,
Fine line
yes,
between love and hate.
sometimes I guess there is. In a box of chocolates. In a
Better
box
get
of chocolates.
better get her 2 boxes of chocolates and the flowers.
Yes. 2 boxes of chocolate, yeah, and the flowers. I also was reading
yes.
about like on Valentine's Day. It's actually there have been lots of cases in Japan and in America about Valentine's Day candy being poisoned and given to people to kill them.
Oh
Oh
my
wow.
Yeah,
god.
like you would think that about Halloween, but I didn't think about it until I googled it today. And because it's such a candy and a chocolate, like marketed day, the
Yeah.
same thing happens with candy for Valentine's Day.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll go
That's
ahead and.
insane.
Did you have another one, Jackie?
No, not right now. You have another one?
Okay, yeah. I'll go over this other one that I had.
Okay.
And I can't remember every detail, but I'm going to pull up some pictures and stuff. But in 1971, there was a double murder
Wow.
of some teenagers that had, it happened in Orange County, and they had gone to a dance at a church, like a sweetheart dance on February 12th. I'm guessing I didn't look at the day of the week, but it was probably on a weekend, and Valentine's Day was going to be on a weekday or something. So the dance was at a hospital, I guess in an extra room that they had there, and it was a sweetheart dance. And when they left the dance, Patricia Ann Mann and Jesse Allen McBain in 1971 were strangled to death at Lover's Lane. And I might have to mute my microphone because
Well,
I
you
don't know if you
can't
can.
talk and mute.
I know. I don't know if you can hear. I think I'm getting in trouble, but I don't want to. I'm a private person. I'm gonna pull up this stuff right here. I could mute while I'm showing the
Yeah.
display, huh? And then I actually noticed today, though, it said that 47 years later, there might have been a break in the cold case, double murder from 1971. And I,
Wow.
I didn't look at that complete article, but I was going to pull up that article and do a screen share for it. So, the news of Orange County double murder, 47-year-old cold case. Authorities seek closure in the 71 double murder.
So this was Florida, correct?
Was it? It's Orange County. That's California.
Yeah.
I thought there was Orange County, Florida too.
There might be an Orange County, Florida too, but I know there's an Orange County in California. The only reason I know that is because Gwen Stefani is from there, and I've always been a huge Gwen Stefani fan. And she lived in Orange County,
Okay.
Anaheim, California. Anaheim is in Orange County, so that's why I was going to pull this up because I couldn't remember. It said Durham County on the Orange Durham County lines in California.
Okay.
Um, The I don't want to read all of it like verbatim because that's boring, but evidence confounded and frustrated even the most seasoned of investigators for decades. I guess that's why it took them so long to even announce they had anything. Uh, there's a 28-year seasoned veteran, Detective Horn, I guess, that worked this case. I was basically pulling this up. The two young people had been described as lovebirds and missed their curfew. She was 20 and a nursing student at Watts Hospital, and he was 19, a freshman at North Carolina State University. So they weren't high schoolers. I thought they were, but they were, young college goers getting their education and starting their life. Talk of engagement in the future. February 12th, 1971, 2 days before Valentine's Day. Cold. It was a cold night in, no, it's North Carolina,
North Carolina, yeah.
in central North Carolina, with misty rain falling through much of this. There's an Orange County, North Carolina, too. I did not know that. That's funny. You thought it was Florida, and I thought it was California because I know there's an Orange County there. There was a dance on the campus at Watts Hospital that night, and Jesse and Patricia made their way from the parents' home. He got his picked up his honey boo boo, whatever you want to call her. He was supposed to have the car that night, and he and his brother shared the car, so it wasn't his night. So he made a deal with his brother, and they traded dates to work it out. So last minute, Jesse gets the car, talked to Patricia. The dance was on, so they go to the dance. I like the way they worded this because it's how I would read it. At approximately 11:30 p.m., McBain and Mann left the dance. Mann signed out of her dormitory, which had extended its nightly curfew from midnight to 1 that night in order to accommodate the dance. So they go to the parking lot to nearby the Lover's Lane near the present-day neighborhood of Crowlsdale. At the time, developers had cut numerous cul-de-sacs into the neighborhood, but they had not yet built the houses. And if you look up Lovers Lane murders, you'll actually find a documentary, a special, and a bunch of Lovers Lane murders too. The rule
Yeah,
was
I
if the
did.
huh?
I did.
Yeah. The rule was if the nurses wanted some private time with their boyfriends, they could go to a close by area they knew. Horn
Mhm.
said. Horn's the investigator that I guess reopened the case. The unwritten rule was if someone was in the cul-de-sac, you go down to the next cul-de-sac, but many of the girls had their spot. It was etched in stone, but it was kind of unofficially, this is ours. McBain and Mann never came back once they went to Lover's Lane.
Mm.
An abandoned automobile and a grisly discovery the following Saturday morning. It was quickly determined that Mann did not return that night before. I'm sure his brother was like, "Where the car at? It's my turn." This was highly, I would be. I mean, think about young brothers sharing a car. They've got places to go and girls to take out and things to do. This is highly out of character for a man who was described by the responsible by as a responsible young woman. Okay, so they're talking about man not showing back up, not the boy. He was McBain. Yeah. So their names are so close to Man and McBain. That she wouldn't miss curfew. I guess she was known as a person that was, prompt and on time. So the girls, her fellow nurses, knew that this was not like her. She was a good girl, and he was a good guy. By everyone's account, they knew something was wrong. They called the local hospitals, asking if there had been a car accident, made efforts to file an initial report with the Durham County Police Department within hours of them not coming back. But you got to wait a certain amount of time to say someone's missing before you can do that, not a couple hours after. Some of Man's coworkers at the Watts Hospital went out looking for her and her boyfriend. They go to the Lover's Lane area where they find McBain's car abandoned. The automobile is
Mm.
sitting in one of the empty cul-de-sacs. Their coats were in the back. Everything appeared to be normal. Nothing was in disarray. There are no signs of a struggle. That must mean someone held them at gunpoint and made them get out of the car, I bet you.
Wow.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm just thinking. I watched too many murder mysteries. Back in those days, cars had triangular vent windows that could be pushed in and out, and it was unsecured. So one of the girls was able to reach in and unlock the car. Oh, so it was locked. Nothing seemed overtly out of place aside from the fact that they were not to be found. At this point, the police get involved. The initial thought was that they had eloped to go get married. Yeah, they just left the car there, I would think they would take the car with them.
Disappeared.
I don't know why in so many cases I hear police like going back to those kind of antics where they think that like, oh, they just got mad and ran away, or this girl
Just
just
like
got off the
disappeared.
phone, or ran off with a
Yeah.
guy, or like they eloped. That doesn't make any sense why they would leave
And
that
they
car there.
and they wait too long and then come and find out they got killed.
Yeah, I feel like that's like what's his name, the dorky Mulberry police officer, not Don Knotts. What's his name? Not
Oh,
Andy,
you mean
not Andy
uh,
Griffith, but the other guy. Anyways, I feel like that's something he would say.
Barney's
Anyways,
wife.
Barney.
yep, wrong.
Yeah, no
Yep.
one knew at the time it was a homicide, but it can fairly became fairly apparent with the second day that something was not right. So for weeks, a frantic search was undertaken. Detectives worked numerous leads in the effort from Durham and Orange County. I guess I should have known Durham was in North Carolina. 12 days after they went missing on February 25th, a surveyor working in a heavily wooded area along the one lane dirt road found what he initially thought was a mannequin. Oh, yay.
Oh, darn.
There was a leg that could be seen sticking out of a pile of leaves. But when he got close, he realized that it was actually a human body.
Wow.
Yeah. McBain and man had been tied to a tree with thick knots around their heads and their hands. The victims were strangled. McBain was still wearing his clasp ring and his watch. There were no signs of theft, any type of sexual assault. Patricia had an internal injury where she may have been punched hard, kicked, or stomped.
Hmm.
I assume that was in the stomach or the back. Orange County Sheriff's Office was called. They immediately responded to the crime. There was some issues about jurisdiction. Where is the county line? Um, anyways, I want to see where they say what happened once they actually reopened this case, because obviously the first initial look at it, which is talking about nobody was found, nobody was arrested, nobody
Mhm.
was, convicted. So after the investigation was taken on, I don't want to read all the, we don't have time for all that. Technology offers hope. There we go. No one had been charged with this heinous crime. There remains a possible that they could eventually catch a huge break in the case. Wet vacuum DNA collection system, originally designed to determine possible pathogens in food samples, was used for DNA. Did they find somebody? Local investigators, they recently reviewed the new impact system where it had the ropes where the victims were tied around their neck and their hands and then lashed around a tree to one another. Oh, crazy. So at least they died together and they were tied together. After
Yeah.
7 years of futility, there remained the chance that this case could have closure. So did it or did it not? I got 4 minutes left to find out.
Mhm.
I just want to know. We believe we had a lot of consultations looking at this in agreement. The headline doesn't actually say that it was solved, though. So, this. No, it just says they're very hopeful. So that doesn't mean it was solved. I'll have to look and dig further into it and I'll have to, keep you guys updated. I didn't like say this earlier, but in the Bugsy Moran and the Al Capone case, I think that was the first case they brought a guy in and he invented the use of ballistic forensics. And he had gone to school for many years. His dad was in the military. He had gone to school for many years and studied any kind of weapon that he could, um, any caliber, any cartridges, and the way that they would have markings on them specifically that would only identify that casing to the weapon that it came out of, and it wouldn't be confused with any other. Hey, Mary. Hey, Nick. It wouldn't be confused with any other weapon. It had a signature like damage or scrapings and markings on it. The casings were taken from that shooting of those 7 men that died, and they were matched to a Tommy gun and two shotguns specifically that were found, and they were matched to those casings. But I guess they didn't find handprints or anything on them to link the weapon to whoever shot it. So I wanted to put that in there too because ballistic forensics was invented that year because of that case. So I
That's
love that.
interesting. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, it is. What's the guy's
Uh,
name? I'll have to look the guy's name up just so in case anybody else wants to know. But he's got a lot of different cases he's done since then as a ballistic forensic expert. I'll put his name out there because I just thought that was really neat.
You see what Nick said? Watched a little bit earlier. Saw you guys were talking about the St. Valentine's Day massacre in Chicago. Surprised you didn't bring me on for that. I'm only a half hour away from where that occurred.
Yeah, I thought that he might see this and he might, had known about it. Dr. Calvin Goddard was the guy's name that was used for the massacre evidence as a ballistic forensics expert.
Neat.
Yeah, and took the bullets, matched them to the weapons they were shot out of, and identified two shotguns and a Tommy gun that had shot the 7 rounds. And the guys weren't all dead at the end. The shotguns were used to finish two of them off
Hmm.
because I guess the 70 rounds that were shot weren't good enough.
Wow.
And
Wow.
they said it was, I don't remember how many were in the drum, but it was one of those drums that had a lot of ammo in it that just kept going.
Mhm.
Those are hundreds of rounds, I believe.
I don't remember what it said, but yeah. Anyways,
Interesting.
yeah. So, if anybody has any information, I had posted earlier the information that Christy gave me about the two little girls that went missing 5 years ago and were found dead in Indiana, at Delphi, right?
Delphi.
Delphi. So, just in
Mhm.
case anyone has information, you can go back to the first quarter of this or the first third of this. You can look at that information I posted. And it's 7. So, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you,
Thank
Christy, for
you.
coming on and keeping your composure and prayers for you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Nick. Next time, if we want to talk about something like this tomorrow night, I actually think that me and Jason might be actually retouching on the St. Valentine's Day murders. If you want to be on the show, let me know. I don't know if
That'd be
anybody's
awesome.
coming. Yeah, thank you everybody for watching and happy
Thank you.
Sunday.
Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow.
Happy
Bye.
Valentine's Day tomorrow. Yeah, and happy Super Bowl today.
Yep.
Yep.
Have a super.
Go halftime